Ladies and gentlemen, we are back after a month of recess. Welcome to Press Hour. It is easy to break down and destroy. The heroes are those who make peace and build. Nelson Mandela. This quotation is from this celebrated African and international icon. And to build may have to be the slow and laborious task of years. To destroy can be the thoughtless act of a single day. This is from Winston Churchill, a British Prime Minister at the time in the 40s and 50s. These two statements are telling us that peace is essential. That is no price for peace. We cannot destroy what we have to build. Inspired then by these late statesmen and exceptional world-class leaders, we learned to see how some Cameroonians, we actually lament to see how some Cameroonians are physically and morally destroying our country. But this has not taken away our smile as a nation, because at the national and international levels, we as a people have survived and are still surviving tipping points of destruction, breakdown, and division. We have survived, and we are still surviving because Cameroon has used diplomacy to conquer the guns and handle very delicate, very difficult situations. The topic of our debate today on Press Hour is: what role has diplomacy played in consolidating national unity? I am Kilian Dandifon in Yaoundé, and this is Press Hour. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Press Hour, and we are broadcasting live from Studio 4 of the CRTV Production Center here and Balatu in Yaoundé. And our topic today is national unity, the role of democracy. You know, we are in the National Unity Week, which is going to culminate on Tuesday with celebrations, culminate in celebrations that mark this very important day in the history of our country. And to talk about this very topical, essential topic, we have the following: Barrister Emmanuel Salai, international lawyer, USA and Cameroon. He will be joining us online. I think he should be in the United States or somewhere, but we have indication that we will have him online. We have Professor Joseph Vincent Ntuda Ibode, who is a geostrategist. He is also an expert in international defense and security, whom we welcome to Press Hour. You're welcome to Press Hour today, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have another professor of great reputation, Professor Elvis Ngole, who is a political scientist. He is also an international relations expert. Thank you for always answering yes when we call, Prof.
Thank you, Kilian. It's a great pleasure to be on a platform with such prestigious and eminent great minds.
Yes, one of the great minds is Dr. Piso Nseke, who is a senior political scientist. He is an international relations researcher. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Kilian, for having me on your show. Thank you for all the great participants. I know we're going to have a lot of constructive discussions, and greetings to all the viewers on CRTV.
Thank you for coming. Our own Charles Ibune. Charles Ibune is International Affairs Desk Editor in CRTV, and Charles also is a non-nonsense person when it comes to national and international issues. Thank you very much, Charles, for coming.
Thank you very much, Kilian, and thank you very much for pairing me with a host of these people, all of them my former guests.
Thank you for coming, Charles. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we're going to invite Yoti Kalele-Songe, who did press review for Press Hour. Yoti.
For the 53rd time in the country's history, civilians will join the military to observe Unity Day, marching towards an emerging Cameroon through economic patriotism and moral, civic, and entrepreneurial rearmament. It so happens that this week, newspapers started the countdown to the 20th May celebration. Cameroon Tribune, in one of its publications, focuses on the launch of civilian activities in the Adamawa region, before proceeding to spotlight Limbe as a melting pot of living together, indicating that the seaside resort city is an epicenter for people from the 10 regions of Cameroon and beyond. A fact confirmed on the Herald Tribune that reports on Fonangwafo IV's maiden visit to Fako Division, wherein he challenged Mancon indigents to foster community development. A desire some persons opine can only be manifested in a society void of hate speech and xenophobia, explaining the Bilingualism Commission's renewed deal with the civil society as seen on municipal updates. Still on the same topic, Cameroon Insider confirms that preparations have intensified across the National Triangle for spectacular military and civilian events on May 20. To show gratitude to the man at the helm of the nation for over 42 years now, Kupe Maninguba chiefs are captured on Echo Outlook, offering traditional talking drums to President Biya. Another issue of interest in the week's publications is the 2025 presidential election. From rallying support for President Biya's re-election, which Newswatch, The Reporter, and Municipal Updates write about, to university lecturers endorsing President Biya's candidacy on The Voice, and The Guardian Post presenting the 2025 presidential hopefuls in the article captioned, "They Have a Dream," the papers had quite a lot to disclose. Still treated by print media organs is the 2025 Abidjan Africa CEO Forum. Whether The Horizon, The Voice, or Cameroon Insider, the respective newspaper organs are unanimous that Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey seized the opportunity to sell Cameroon's business charm. Other stories, such as Minister Paula Tanganji's evaluation visit at the Garwa Airport ahead of the 2025 Hajj, and Pope Leo XIV presented again to the readership, made the week's news.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Press R, and we're beaming live from Yaoundé. Our topic of discussion today is national unity, the role of diplomacy. What has diplomacy done that has consolidated our national unity? That is our topic, and I already introduced the panelists. I am going to call on the panelists on the set to identify areas where diplomacy has actually made Cameroon to survive difficult situations, and even if there are present situations where Cameroon is still surviving because of diplomacy, you bring them up, and we continue. I think I will start with Dr. Bison Seke. You identify one or two.
Well, thank you very much, Killian. We all know what diplomacy is from the traditional sense in which state actors engage in negotiation, mediation for certain interests. But today in our modern world, you have other actors, non-state actors, who play a great role when it comes to diplomacy. And when we talk about diplomacy in Cameroon, we have to talk about the head of state, because the head of state is the head of our diplomatic vision. And when we talk about the role of diplomacy in national unity, we have to look at it from the internal and the external perspective. Internal perspective, we have seen the various crises that Cameroon has undergone, and we have seen how the head of state has deployed all the diplomatic tools in resolving some of these crises, whether it's in the northwest and southwest, or with Boko Haram, or other social issues of unrest. And I can just name, I'm sure that the other panelists will give more flesh to what I'm saying. We can talk about the various or most recent initiatives of the National Dialogue Conference. We can talk about the various mediation that have been carried out by traditional authorities, carried out by the administrative authorities in making sure that Cameroonians feel some kind of inclusiveness or belongingness in this nation.
Thank you so much. I was looking at the definition of diplomacy, and then I looked for the functional definition of diplomacy, and it talks about these things. It provides a framework for peaceful resolution of disputes. It promotes cooperation between nations. It builds trust in international relations. It finds common ground on global challenges, and today we have challenges like terrorism, trade, climate change, and the rest. Yes, you just listened to him, Charles. You are well seated in international relations as a reporter. Now, he said other panelists could develop. What other areas of intervention has Cameroon actually consolidated its national unity?
I think that to the memory of each and every living Cameroonian, the most glaring example of diplomacy helping us maintain national unity, the territorial integrity of the country, I think is the Bakassi affair. Because you should know that diplomats are soldiers without guns. Their guns are pens and their mouths, and they are intellectuals. So the fact that we did not lose Bakassi because we took the diplomatic channel to ensure that justice and the rule of law reinstates or gives Bakassi to whosoever it belongs to, and we successfully had Bakassi after a 15-year legal and diplomatic wrangling, I think it was an extraordinary success story for the maintenance of national unity. And of course, each time that in the second point of view is that diplomacy has helped us secure our borders throughout the years, thereby keeping Cameroonians safe and peaceful, because even the soldiers that are deployed, they are always accompanied by the diplomatic arsenal of the country, be it sometimes when we have clashes with Equatorial Guinea, be it the deployment of Cameroonian troops in MINUSCA keeping missions in the Central African Republic, be it in Darfur. And this gives Cameroon a different eye in terms of international perspective as a country where an intelligent and sage country when it comes to solving problems. And I think the last area where diplomacy has helped, you may call it sports diplomacy. It's basically through the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, because we have had very difficult moments in this country, and each time those difficult moments were our national football team, through their sporting talent, permitted us to celebrate. You can go to 2017, we were just at the start of the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest, and when the Lions won the AFCON in Gabon, you heard the President of the Republic saying that whether you are called Deep Tambe or Mayong or whatsoever. In the 2000, equally, there were very challenging moments. We won in 2000, 2002, the Olympic medal. So this has given Cameroon
our performance, way back in 1990.
Absolutely.
Yes,
1990, you can imagine the political crossroads of 1990 when there was this search for democracy, a new dawn. And when the Lions reached the quarterfinals of the Africa Cup, of the World Cup for the very first time, an African country, was an extraordinary moment that brought some joy in the country and helped calm down some tempers which may have destroyed the nation. And I may just end by saying that the fact that diplomacy too has helped a Cameroonian sitting today at the General Assembly of the United Nations General Assembly, it's some kind of plus if you know where we were coming from the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest. Seeing Philemon Yang there is a kind of sense of belonging that people are not abandoned, especially those who come from the Northwest and Southwest, despite our challenges. But we'll be talking to them in a moment.
Thank you so much, Charles. You talked about football. Football is named among the leading soft powers that the world has today. You have technology, you have sports, as you've said, the thing that sports can do that guns cannot do. as you've rightly said. Thank you so much for raising those issues. Now, you and Dr. Piso Nseke have raised some of them. I will want to see Professor Joseph Vincent and Tudai Bode to take one. He talked about the Bakassi issue, which is a well-known issue, is a dispute issue. Tell us how diplomacy, they just named it and talked about how did diplomacy help to resolve this situation that is defense and security, where you are an expert.
Okay, thank you very much. I think before answering directly to your question, I can add to what they said, that even at the beginning of the birth of our country, diplomacy played a big role.
Okay.
Just take the condition of our independence with the United Nations. We know then where we are coming from. Diplomacy played a big role on the consolidation of our nation, and you saw between the French part and the English part, up to the referendum in '61. Now, diplomacy play also even during the conference of Fumban, even if a lot of people didn't see. Diplomacy play also a role to manage the conflict with against Boko Haram. Now to answer directly to your question.
Yes, how did diplomacy contribute to the Bakassi, which was an interstate dispute, which could have, it was even a tipping point to go to war, but we didn't go there. They talked about it happened. How did diplomacy play?
You know that Bakassi at the beginning was a word. The fact of opting to diplomacy was another initiative. And now, when we win the case between the international justice, diplomacy came again for the implementation of the Green Tree Accord.
Yeah.
Then at all levels, when you take the Bakassi case, you will find that diplomacy played a big role with mainly three actors. Our president, President Biya, the Nigeria president, President Obanjo, and
Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yeah, and the UN Secretary
General at the time.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, we were from Ghana.
Kofi
Annan. Then diplomacy plays a lot of a great role. Yeah, besides what the role played by army in the field and the role played by the justice at the level of internal war.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to you to talk about how it worked, especially to talk about, as you have said, how it could have been catastrophic in terms of defense and security if diplomacy did not play that role. We're going to move to Professor Elvis Ngolengole. They've talked about some of these, but we want you to talk about diplomacy, international conventions, accords, and some other bilateral and multilateral relationships that Cameroon has with some countries that are playing a big role in national unity.
Yeah, just to add to what has been said by the previous panelists, by definition, as we say in international relations schools or schools of diplomacy, diplomacy is defined as the use of tact, wisdom, intelligence, decorum, whatever you've got as qualities in order to conduct your international relations. And diplomacy always has in its organization and its functioning a head. And for every nation that is constituted as a nation-state actor in international relations, the head of diplomacy is always the head of state or the president of the republic. And from the beginning, as Professor Tudai Bode said earlier, and as Dr. Nseke said earlier, the first diplomatic act in favor of national unity in Cameroon was the fact that from birth, as Professor Ibude said earlier, from birth, every nation state needs diplomatic recognition and diplomatic support for you to be able to function as a nation state that has sovereign independence. Because sovereign independence is defined as, one, internally, the capacity for you to be able to be what you want to be. Two, externally, the ability for you to get the diplomatic recognition of others. You can't have one without the other. Sovereignty is not complete without diplomatic recognition.
Okay.
And any country which claims to be independent or to achieve independence, yes, internally it might claim so. But if that diplomatic recognition is not there, it means your sovereignty doesn't have external dimension or diplomatic dimension. And so every country that is sovereign and independent needs that diplomatic recognition. And in our case, our national unity began, and I think Professor Tunde Bode said earlier, it began with the recognition by the rest of the world, the United Nations, the former powers, the United Kingdom and France and other countries. That recognition is a diplomatic act.
Exactly.
The fact that the United Nations also was involved, as he said, in Fumban and others, was also a diplomatic act. It is nothing that's where, when I said you define diplomacy, that's exactly how diplomacy works. That recognition and the support that goes along with it is what diplomacy is all about. And the person or the leader who incarnates this recognition, external recognition or diplomatic recognition, is always the head of state, because once you achieve independence, under your laws, under your constitution, the constitutional head of your country is naturally the head of diplomacy. And the role that our head of state has played in ensuring that national unity should be preserved to the extent where we are celebrating 53 years of it today, in fact it began more than 53 years ago, is that he has been able, through his diplomacy, to use all the qualities of diplomacy to be able to achieve. That recognition is there. There is no country in the world which does not recognize Cameroon as a united and indivisible nation state. None.
Yes.
No exception.
Yes. Now,
That's
yes.
plus we should give credit to the leadership of our diplomacy.
Very much so. I come back to the question I asked. How has the head of the diplomatic mission in Cameroon, the head of state, and all the other collaborators whom he has put in place, used international instruments, treaties, conventions, and other accords to get, because once these things are there, mean that once you sign, you are interdependent with other states. How has Cameroon, led by the head of the diplomatic mission in Cameroon, used these different international conventions, treaties, and accords to resolve certain problems in favor of Cameroon, to consolidate our national unity?
Yes. One of the, in the diplomacy of Cameroon, and in fact in the diplomacy of the 54 African countries, there are two key principles that you see present. One is the principle of cooperation. The key principle of the diplomacy of Cameroon is that cooperation is important, cooperation is indispensable. The other principle is of our diplomacy in Cameroon is that of Pan-Africanism, the brotherhood, solidarity with other African countries. And because of the belief in these principles, President Biya, as the leader of Cameroon, in his diplomacy, has always given priority to participating in and being a party to international conventions, international agreements, participating in and being a party to belonging to international organizations. That is why Cameroon, there is hardly any international organization, regional or or international that Cameroon is not a part of. That's why we can pride ourselves in saying that we are one of the few African countries that can say we are both in the Francophonie and we are in the Commonwealth. That is a great act of diplomacy.
And even the Organization of Islamic
And
Cooperation.
even in
the
Islamic countries. That is an act of
world.
diplomacy. It takes diplomacy for you to be able to do that. And because of that, and in true, you know, in conformity or in line with these principles, President Biya has always stayed very close to the United Nations Charter and its principles.
Okay.
And so because of this, there is no country in the world that quarrels with Cameroon. That is why the diplomacy, as he himself says, is a diplomacy of method, of principle, a diplomacy without frontiers.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Yes, Charles,
I just want to cue something from where Professor Elvis Ngole ended in response to your question after his brilliant presentation of the issue. I think that one of the ways the president has used the arsenal of the legal documents governing the world, conventions and whatsoever, is surrounding himself with intelligent, capable people who interpret the law correctly. That is why to date, the Northwest and the Southwest is not an independent entity. Let me explain. People have moved to the United Nations, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth, that the Northwest and Southwest should be an independent state because they are asking for self-determination, which they have never had. But they forget that the argument of the Biya administration is that, and even before Biya, Amadou Ahidjo, Article 76B of the United Nations Charter stated the trusteeships will be governed towards self-government and independence. So, did British Southern Cameroon had self-government, which is equivalent to autonomy and semi-autonomous entity? Yes. That is why Ndeli was the leader of government business, or if you like, a quasi-federal territory in 1954. That is why Ndeli in the 1950s or 57 was a prime minister, because there was already self-government. That is why they moved towards independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. And again, do you want to say that you want to ask an issue of a jurisprudence on plebiscite? Are there other portions in the world where a plebiscite was organized? Yes. Was it part of the UN system? Yes. So when you evacuate all of that, you are left with no legal argument in front of the United Nations.
Okay, we're not going to.
We are not going to enter into the details, but it is just as simple as that.
Let's come back to where we are. Professor Elvis Ngole joined Charles and Dr. Piso to talk about what you also raised, and I am still there. We're talking about the relationship Cameroon has with other countries. How has Cameroon used such relationships that I consider diplomacy to solve some of the conflicts that we have had?
Okay, I think I may add to what Professor Ngole said on the base of principle, the fact that our third principle is the non-interference to
Our
other country internal affairs. When you opt for that, no country in the world will interfere to your own affairs.
Okay.
And when you will then mobilize a case to present it to other country, they will trust you because there is no calculation behind. Now to answer directly, I think you are a member of African Union.
Yeah.
And you are a member of Central African State Organization.
CEMAC and ECAS.
Yeah. That is where our diplomacy starts. When we have the support of Central African State, with that support, we go to African Union. As soon as we have the support of African Union, we can go to the world. And you can even see what happened before the election of our brother who is now at the next.
Philemon Yang, without the approval of CEMAC, without the approval of ACAS, he wouldn't have gone to the African Union, and without the African Union, he would not go to the global
We will
stage.
stay on this topic. I will not go to question the efficiency of the United Nations, because many people question with arguments. They say the UN talks when people are dying. They don't intervene. Now, I'm not going to go into that.
Yes.
Yes.
Where are we going?
Yes. Now, I'm asking you, what has the Friends of Cameroon done to resolve some of the conflicts we have had? That's the question I asked you. I don't want to go into...
Yes, let me answer directly. When I took the floor at the beginning, I told you that it is diplomacy who lead to the Green Tree Accord.
Yes.
Who organized it?
United Nations.
The UN.
The UN? No, not the UN. United
Cameroon,
States.
The
United States.
The United States with the presence of which other countries?
Great
France,
Britain.
Great Britain, Germany.
Yes.
That is an example of what our country friends did. You can find it in any case. In fact, diplomacy means also that you are not working alone. Then any result that you have at the level of international relation means that you succeed in building a case with partner. And any case presented by Cameroon at the level of international relation had partner. It is a question of confidence. It means that we are respecting our speech. When we take a commitment before other partner, we follow our commitment. Then, when they take it for us, they follow their commitment.
Thank you so much.
Maybe-
There's a guest that we announced. There's a guest we announced.
But let me
Yes.
just give you. You said, what have they done for us? I hope you follow the last speech of the head of state. I thank you people very much for punishing people and taking them to justice for those who are creating chaos in the Northwest and Southwest. And we will continue to count on you because you have always counted on us. As we speak to date, there is no single entity, regional, sub-regional, global, bilateral or multilateral, which has given recognition to any other entity in Cameroon apart from the one that Paul Biya incarnates.
Yeah, thank you for stepping in because we are going to, I'm told that after that I will come to Dr. Piso Nseke because I'm going to an area that deals with the diaspora. You were in the United States 2 days ago when I spoke with you. Here you are here. Now, we are told that our panelists, Barrister Emmanuel Salai, who is an international lawyer based in the United States of America. He also has chambers here in Cameroon, and he is doing so much. We're going to ask him to just tell us. But before we do that, let us be sure that he is there. Yes, Barrister, are you on the line?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Killian. I am on the line, and thanks again for being on your platform, and I hope you're doing well.
Well, Barrister, I would like you to begin by telling us what the relationship Cameroon has with other countries around the world has done for you, a private lawyer, to carry on with you the cases that you are handling against those who are maiming, killing people in the Northwest and Southwest region. Quite successful with some of the cases. Yes, tell us what the relationship Cameroon has with other countries are doing to help you from the private sector.
The start of a criminal case or a criminal proceeding which can be filed by private lawyers on behalf of victims or associations or anybody to lead to an arrest, it's a long and complex process in the United States, especially when it involves crimes that the victims are so far away, are in a different continent across the Atlantic in Cameroon. It requires the collaboration of the law enforcement of these foreign countries, such as the USA, different aspects of the judiciary, and executive framework. It is important in this context, therefore, that the country where the victims are, in this case Cameroon, is a country that they know is friendly, is a country that they know is productive, is a country that they know respects other international norms and conventions. Because this encourages the law enforcement of these countries, such as in the United States, such as in Norway, such as also in countries where we have criminal complaints like England or Ireland. It encourages them to pursue these cases knowing that they are dealing with a country that is friendly, a country that has diplomatic relations with them, a country that follows international norms and laws and all that goes with it. It is also equally important because the law enforcement of these countries, they need to, as they did in these criminal cases, come down on the ground, come down to Cameroon, verify the evidence that my firm has submitted, verify the witnesses, verify the events, speak to their liaisons, whether it's the CIA liaison, law enforcement liaison, administrative authorities in their embassies charged with handling these tasks, to know that the information and the evidence presented is credible, to seek more independent evidence, to collaborate as necessary with those on the ground here, victims' families, get with victim statements independent of what we have submitted in order to complete the case so that it's airtight and they can obtain valid arrests and convictions.
Yes, Barrister, please. We are told that you have a good number of those cases. You've won some. There's people already in prison. Some are under detention. And there are recent cases that you have. What's the situation of the different cases? Just give us some of them.
For the case of Cho Ayaba Lucas, who's actually his last name in Norway is Yaba, as he was arrested on September 24th, 2024 for crimes against humanity. Due to the gravity of his crimes and the risk of flight, because he also obtained UK citizenship and was preparing to leave for UK, and also due to the huge amounts, the mountainous amounts of evidence of his crimes against humanity, his ordering of harm, killings, torture, other terrorist actions against innocent civilians and government officials in Cameroon, the judge has consistently refused him bail. He is currently held in custody since September 2024 and has been denied bail over 6 times. The prosecutors believe that it may take up to 2 years for them to take the case to trial, and they intend to hold him without bail throughout this duration because he is a very dangerous criminal, terrorist as we named in our complaints. He is a huge flight risk, and the evidence is overwhelming against him. Now, with regards to the case against Eric Tato, again, we labeled him as terrorist because he is a terrorist. He was recently arrested on April 24th this year, 2025, and there are 5 major charges against him, all with regards to the harm, the killings, the torture, the maiming of innocent civilians, which he either orchestrated, incited, directed, or financed in Cameroon. For example, one of the charges against him is providing material support to the non-armed state groups in Cameroon. This means providing things like logistics or weapons or planning with them to harm innocent civilians. So he is charged with the material support of terrorism. He is also charged with the financing of terrorism, seeking to raise arms to finance his non-state armed groups or the Amber Boys in the conflict regions. For example, it was noted he started an AK-47 campaign to arm these Amber Boys. He's also charged with incitement of terrorism in the conflict zones. He used to go on his social media and request his armed fighters or Amber Boys to kill, harm, maim, destroy government buildings, for example, burn private property. So the prosecutors, and based on the law, believe it will take, could face potentially 15 to 25 years in prison. Obviously, at the end of the trial, if he's convicted, as we have no doubt he will be, the judge will decide.
Yes, Barrister, please don't go away yet. We will come back to you. We have Dr. Pison Seke, who is here. He is, I can say, more than just a diaspora. He was in the United States 2 days when I spoke with him. He is here on the set in Cameroon. Now, we would like you to, on the same line as Barrister Emmanuel Salai, tell us what the diaspora that is favorable to development here, what is their contribution to national unity?
Thank you very much, Killian. Before talking about the diaspora, I just want to mention something. And so far, nobody has really said it. The fact that Cameroon has a very great diplomatic arsenal is because of its cultural diversity. Cameroon, with over more than 250 ethnic groups, 2 internationally renowned languages, Cameroon is a bridge between Francophone and Anglophone Africa. Cameroon is a bridge to the world. And Cameroon is one of the few African states that have cordial relationships with all the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. The United States, the UK, France,
Germany,
China,
Russia.
and Russia. Cameroon has excellent relationships with these states, which shows the importance that Cameroon holds when you look at the geopolitical location. So for me, just because we're talking about national unity, I want to say that these are some of the assets that make Cameroon an attractive partner. Now, talking about the contribution of the diaspora. You know, I have been a member of the diaspora, having lived, studied, and worked in the US, Europe, and China. And I can tell you people that the Cameroonian diaspora is very dynamic. Very dynamic. Everywhere you go, you will see Cameroonians excelling at what they're doing. However, we have different points of view, and that is the beauty of our diversity, where when you meet Cameroonians wherever, some of them might complain, they may say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, I think it's love. Cameroonians love their country. They want to see their country develop. They want to see their country advance. And sometimes they may have different visions on how to achieve this development. But speaking concretely of the contribution of the diaspora, if we just talk about the financial aspect, just based on the World Bank's most recent reports of remittances, the Cameroonian diaspora has contributed more than 250 billion francs to this country. When you look about what people just sent to their loved ones, the different and various projects the diasporans are trying to have in Cameroon. We also have people from the diaspora who represent us. Charles was talking about sports, but we can talk about culture, not only football. You
Very
have
much so.
people like Francis Ngannou. In the MMA, we talk about culture, our musician, artists. We can talk about our intellectuals, you know, people like Prof was one of them. We have people who are great intellectuals, scientists, who are great citizens wherever they are, and they have been contributing to Cameroon's positive image, and sometimes not the other way. So in my opinion, and this is where we might maybe diverge, is that the country, there's still room for improvement. The country has to provide a platform where the diaspora will feel more included. when it comes to the management of the affairs. And you might ask me, for example, what am I saying?
Tell us.
Yes. For example, if we're just talking about comparative analysis, I can use the case of Senegal, where members of the diaspora have access as parliamentarians. So these are some
You know, that argument, somebody will quickly tell you that the President of the Republic is a former member of the diaspora. The Minister of State Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic is a former member of the diaspora. The Prime Minister, head of government, is a former member of the diaspora. The Director of the Civil Cabinet of the Presidency is a former member of the diaspora.
So you are concording?
Nearly every member of the Cameroonian cabinet, including Professor Elvis Ngole Ngole, who used to be there, nearly all of them are former members of the diaspora.
So you are concording what he's saying?
Absolutely. And I think the other argument should be now, all those who have just studied in Cameroon should be the ones in power, because for the past 60 years is the diaspora.
Now let us get you get to the end of your point. Is that exactly what you are talking about, or you are talking about someone staying in the diaspora but who is a member of parliament? I don't understand, because
many of them are members of the diaspora. Many of them are parliamentarians in Cameroon who have come back and established.
The diaspora must have a representative here. That's what he's saying.
What I'm saying is that
you want somebody who stand there, and it means that the constitution must be modified, because it happens in France. It's the framework of their constitution.
Not only France. I use the example of
Senegal. Yes.
That's an
No,
African
let's look
country.
the nature of their constitution. We shouldn't just talk.
No,
we
what
should
I'm
look
saying-
at the framework
what
of
I'm
their
saying is
constitution.
He is proposing. That's how he started.
And I agree with him.
He started by saying
I'm
he's
not
proposing
against
that.
that.
Yes. Okay.
Charles, it's a proposal.
I'm not against it.
In which members of the diaspora need to feel included in the management of state affairs. If we're talking about national unity, we're talking about the role of diplomacy. It's not only internal, it's also external, because we have said here Cameroonians in the diaspora are excellent.
Yes.
Anywhere you go, they're excellent. So how can we make these people feel part of the system, part of the management of the state? That is what I'm saying.
One other thing there, Charles, before you comment, one other thing, no, please, Charles, see,
people need
Charles,
to change your nationality laws. I understand what you are saying.
Yeah,
because if you take somebody like,
that's where I'm driving at. See,
if you take somebody like, just go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
thank you, Charles.
Just go ahead.
Since he is the one, don't divert so much. Thank you for the inputs that you have. Are you hammering on what most diasporas are asking for? Double nationality? Is that part of what you are talking about?
I think it's part of it. We are at this crossroad where we need to consider dual citizenship. But there are certain exceptions where maybe we might not accept it. And maybe certain exceptions might be if you're a member of the armed force, or if you are running for president, where maybe it might not be acceptable. But I think
the Constitution takes care of that, don't worry.
Yeah, we need to look for mechanisms.
We're going to go, you've opened a new chapter. That's exactly the last chapter of this program. Yes. We are looking for areas and ways of improving on not only the diaspora, on improving on our diplomacy, so that it better handles some of our problems.
Yeah, within the framework and the vision of the diplomatic vision of the head of state, I can tell you, sitting here, that I've been on the delegations with at least 3 prime ministers of Cameroon to the United States.
You have even also been on delegation with the president of the Republic.
The head of state, I cannot even count that one. I mean, including the Green Tree Accord, I was there. And I have to tell you that the Cameroonian diaspora, which is estimated at somewhere between 4 or 5 million persons, most of whom are very good men and women who love their country and who are attached to their country, I think can count on the diplomatic vision and the political vision of President Biya. In fact, President Biya is an asset on whom the Cameroonian diaspora can count, because the political vision he has and his diplomacy is so open, is so principled, that what Dr. Seke is saying, in fact, it's not out of line with the political and diplomatic vision of the head of state. So if and based on some of the things he has done, the initiatives he has taken, such as sending missions abroad to go meet with Cameroonian diaspora, this diaspora should know that, and they have made lots of proposals, amongst which, some of which Dr. Seka has just made mention. But I can tell you, their biggest asset, and the one person they can count on, is the leadership of President Biya, because I know that his political vision and the initiatives he has already taken are in line with a lot of the proposals and the wishes of the Cameroonian diaspora. I don't think there is any other leader, as of now that I know, that the Cameroonian diaspora can count on, who would do as much for them as President Biya has already shown to do. Okay. So there's nothing, there's no idea that they have, including, as he said,
dual
representation or dual national. All these issues have been discussed.
Okay.
And I tell you, that is their best advocate. I believe so.
They want it in place. They don't want it talked about. Okay, now, Prof, let's
begin by talking, you know?
Yes. Now, we still have Barrister Nsalai on the line. Let us ask him one question, because we are in a new chapter right away. The way forward. Let us ask him, because he's particularly intervening today on the cases he filed in defense of the victims of the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest region. The question I will ask you now, Barrister, is what is your message, since you are tracking down some of them and putting them in prison? What is your message to the ambushed fighters who are still in the bush, and to some of their leaders who are still there? Are you advising them not to follow what those that you have tracked down with law have done?
We are just getting started. These separatist terrorist organizations are worldwide, and they have huge number of high-ranking members who have contributed massively to the over 6,500 or more dead since the conflict began, 800,000 or more IDPs or internally displaced persons, hundreds of thousands of our children who have not gone to school or have been deprived of quality education, the widows they've left in their wake, the orphans, those they have caused to lose their hands or fingers. There are thousands of them which we believe need to pay their debts to these victims, need to pay their debts to society. It's a slow and long task, but every major one of them, and we have documented evidence against them, we will pursue in criminal courts, whether they reside in the United States, Europe, UK, Australia, or Asia. We have pending criminal complaints against most of them, and we'll continue to prosecute and pursue these cases.
Thank you. We wanted you to talk about the message. Yes, you continue to prosecute them. That, I think, should be the message, and the message goes also to those who are here. Thank you so much, Barrister, for accepting to answer our questions through this medium, being afar. Thank you so much for your contributions.
Thank you once again, Mr. Killian, for having me. Thank you to His Excellency Professor Ngola Ngola, who's in the studio. Greetings to you. Greetings also to the other guests. Thank you to your crew, and happy National Unity Day to everyone.
Once again, thank you once again, Barrister. Charles, you just listen to him before I get to Professor Ibode, to the Ibode. You listen to Barrister Emmanuel Nsalai. What he is doing, he has changed the narrative of what's happening in Northwest and Southwest.
Absolutely, and the greatest tribute goes to the work of the Cameroonian diplomatic establishment, run on a daily basis by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because let me say three things before we separate. One, the Cameroonian diplomacy succeeded to convince the entire world that ever since humanity started, there is no human endeavor which stopped children from going to school. You even saw the Pope coming in with the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon. That was an excellent work. I want to praise all the diplomats who did it privately and publicly, including the boss of that diplomacy, President Biya.
Second
issue, I wish to tell all Cameroonians, whether we agree with the way our nation is governed or not, let them learn not to practice treason. What do I say by that? There are some Cameroonians who stand against other Cameroonians when they are international organizations. So when you do that, you are not a patriot and you destroy national unity and the construct of the nation.
Third point.
Let me say that the Cameroonian diplomacy has succeeded over the years to work silently in making sure that each time a Cameroonian is in difficulty abroad, they come in to support the person. We have seen the president sending jets, planes, and whatever to take Cameroonians.
That's correct. That point
area.
well made. Your points are well made. We have just 2 minutes. Two minutes to go.
The sense of national identity.
Thank you so much, Professor Joseph Vincent Toudaibode. Yes, we wish to know which are the areas briefly that we need to improve on our diplomacy to better handle it around the world in the interest of our unity.
Okay, when we are speaking about diplomacy, there are 2 types. You have bilateral and you have multilateral.
Yes.
But now we can add another one, the one dealing with our diaspora.
Okay.
I think in every area, we still need to go forward.
Okay.
Yeah. We do not have agreement as we want it to be with any country, any multinational organization, or any member of the diaspora, as he said.
Exactly.
That means we need to improve our behavior or our relationship with any domain within those 3 that I quote.
Yes, the last word goes to Professor Elvis Ngolengole. In 1 minute, please. Yes. I know how you speak.
The future of our diplomacy lies in its openness, its principles, its method, and the vision of the leader. And we have all that in the person and the leadership of President Biya. Really, we should count ourselves as a blessed country, having a leader with such a sense of, with such a vision and with such an open-mindedness, to the point where almost everyone in the world deals with him and sees him. It is no doubt, that is why he's called the wise man of Africa, because he's using those qualities that we consider to be the important qualities of diplomacy to make Cameroon an attractive country, a credible actor in international relations. We have to give thanks to his leadership and his diplomatic vision.
Thank you. Exceptionally, I had already announced that was the last person to speak, but since he's from the diaspora and we have a special consideration for diaspora, yes.
Yes,
Dr.
thank you,
Nseke.
Killian. I just want to appeal not only to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, to appeal to those who are still fighting, that we only have one country. And with everything that has been said, even if passion may have strained some of our bonds of affection, they should not be broken. I am paraphrasing one great American president, and just to say that we should come together to work together. We should come together to discuss, to dialogue, because we have this country, Cameroon, which we all love, which we want to build, which we all have things to offer. And I believe that sooner or later, we all will be touched by the better angels of our nature.
Thank you so much. You've ended it so well. I was going to take that quotation that you made. I didn't know you were going to attribute it to somebody. I said I was going to say that's the quotable quote of this program. But thank you so much, Dr. Piso Nseke, Senior Political Scientist, International Relations Researcher. Thank you for coming. We also want to thank you so much, Professor Elvis Ngolengole, who is a political scientist, is international relations expert. Thank you for coming. Professor Joseph Vincent Toudaibode, who is a geostrategist and expert in international defense and security. Thank you so much, Prof, for
thank you,
your contribution. Charles Ibune, thank you so much. Charles is international affairs desk editor in CRTV. Yeah, he defended that so well. You can bear with me. And we have special thanks that we give to Barrister Emmanuel Salai, who is international lawyer based in Cameroon and the United States at the same time. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching.